I warned you. Don't.
Get involved.
Involved, I'm not involved.
Oh, by the way, Sherlock.
Do you remember Redbeard?
Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So everyone's been asking me for my breakdown for Sign of 3, so here it is. I found a bunch of good references and clues, so I also decided to include a few theories based on those clues. And since I posted my Q&A video, Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss have started talking about Series 4 and Series 5. I'll be talking about that after I post my Episode 3 videos next week, so be sure to subscribe to get everything. I'll be doing Series 4 predictions, and it'll be a lot of fun stuff going on. Get excited though, the minute they said Series 5, I just thought 2 more years of Sherlock. I'll be analyzing very specific parts of the plot of Sign of 3, so if you haven't seen it yet, be careful because this will be super spoilery. So everybody grab your eyeball tea and let's get started. Number 1, Happy Birthday Sherlock. So it's not exactly part of the episode, but the Monday after this episode aired was the 160th birthday of the Sherlock Holmes character. He doesn't look a day over 30. Number 2, the Red-Headed League. The gang that Lestrade and Donovan are chasing in the opening scenes is a reference to the Red-Headed League, also denoted by the red heading on the newspaper article. In Holmes' canon, the League was a ruse created by thieves as a way to distract authorities. One of the bank robbers from the original story is even named Archie, which is the same name as the little boy Sherlock promised to show those pictures to at the wedding. 3. The best theory I've seen about the gang is that one of them is a member of Scotland Yard with Lestrade, which is how they're staying one step ahead, and that they're a combination of those 3 gunmen from Reichenbach Fall. If you look at the pictures of each of them, they look somewhat similar to Mrs. Hudson, Watson, and Lestrade's gunmen. We don't see the one that looks like Lestrade's gunman at the crime scene, but it's implied that he was there. He was actually the one who kidnapped the little girl who screamed at Sherlock. See how much he looks like that person walking into the school while Sherlock was mind palacing? Just to reinforce that point, doesn't he look amazingly like the person in the background working with Lestrade during the case? We can assume that he's the one that's the inside man tipping off the bank robbers. Number 4. When Donovan tells Lestrade that Jones will get all the credit, it's a book reference to Athelney Jones from the original book, Sign of 4. During that book, Jones arrested a family, but it turned out to be wrong. So the Waters gang that they mentioned in this episode is being falsely accused. So it's just another piece of evidence that these people were Moriarty's gunmen, and they're now just working for the villain Charles Augustus Magnuson. I'm expecting episode 3 to pay off this bank robber plot. Number 5, there's blackmail afoot. The villain, Magnuson, is based on the book character Charles Augustus Milverton, a master blackmailer. Here's where things get a little weird with these bank robbers. Notice that really old looking one. There's actually a conspiracy theory that this gang member is actually Mary Morstan's father, and Mary has been living under a false name, and the villain has been using her father's criminal identity as a means to blackmail her. Think about what Sherlock saw when he deduced her. She's a liar, she had a guardian, and she has a secret. During Sign of 3, she talks about being an orphan, but what if she's lying about that and about her name? Number 6. More evidence that Mary's real father is one of those bank robbers. In the original book, Sign of 4, Mary's father was involved with the stolen treasure plot. In Sign of 3, that treasure is just replaced with the bank gold. Number 7. Mary's guardian was Charles Augustus Magnuson. The person who sent her the telegram is addressed Cam. That abbreviation Cam was also used by the book villain Milverton, which Magnuson is based on. My mind has been blown. Number 8. Magnuson is trolling Mary. The telegram that Cam sent said specifically, "Wish your family could have seen this." Note that in the timeline of the episode, the wedding is the day after the final bank robber scene. On that day, Donovan was on her way to arrest those people, so Mary's real father could have been in jail during the wedding. I know a lot of people believe that Mary will die in episode 3, but if her father does exist and he's one of these bank robbers, he could be the Morstan that ends up dying. Number 9. The papers fluttering when Lestrade's backup arrives at Baker Street are the beginnings of Sherlock's waltz for John and Mary. He's been working on that for a long time. Also note when he's dancing to that waltz later, that you actually learned that Sherlock loves to dance and even taught Watson how to dance. I wonder what Mrs. Hudson thought whenever she walked in on the two of them. Number 10, Mrs. Hudson's private life. We learned that Mrs. Hudson's husband was executed for committing double homicide and that he was a drug dealer in Florida. Every time I look at her now, I think of Skylar White from Breaking Bad. Number 11, Sherlock Holmes' wedding planner. Sherlock's nature misleads you into thinking that he'd be a terrible best man, but because he's trying so hard to integrate into John and Mary's new life, he goes extremely overboard in managing almost every detail of their wedding, from vetting the guest list, to helping plan the seating chart, to folding napkins into origami opera houses. He really wants to be a part of this new family. Number 12, Sherlock is amazing with children. In the original stories, Holmes employed and took care of neighborhood children called the Baker Street Irregulars. Previously on the show, that group had just been replaced by Sherlock's homeless network. Just imagine Sherlock helping raise John and Mary's baby. Number 13, Sherlock Is Peter Pan. Also, during the scenes with Archie, Sherlock mentions that he'll ask a grown-up, meaning that he doesn't think of himself as a grown-up. That's another reference to the origins of the character being something of a Peter Pan figure, always looking for adventure. Remember that most of the original Holmes stories had the word adventure in them. Number 14, major character development. Sherlock seeking to make attachment is a big deal in this episode. Notice him asking Mary about John's relationship with Major Sholto. Later he argues with Mycroft about caring being an advantage, and Mycroft advising him against getting involved. He's just trying to find out where he fits in John's new life. Number 15, Redbeard. So many people had questions about this, but the best theory I've seen supports the idea that when Mycroft mentions Redbeard, he's actually referencing Mary. Notice that he said Redbeard twice during his phone call with Sherlock. Redbeard was actually a pirate with his brother who continued being a pirate after his brother died. So on one level, it's a reference that Sherlock will have to continue solving crimes alone once Watson leaves him. But here's where it gets interesting. Redbeard had an adopted son named Eric LaRouge. Eric was a wealthy aristocrat whose parents were killed and ended up living under an assumed name. But Redbeard the pirate kept coming back into his life asking him for help with new schemes. So what if Magnuson, the master blackmailer, is the Redbeard in that story that Mycroft is talking about, and he keeps blackmailing Mary Morstan, who in this case would be the Eric character? The theory doesn't invoke the bank robber plot that I mentioned earlier, but Mark Gatiss teased episode 3 by posting a tweet that only said Redbeard, meaning that it is central to the plot of His Last Vow. Everything is connected. There are no coincidences. Number 16, Mycroft Working Out. This is hilarious, but in addition to teasing Mycroft's ring, Redbeard, and Sherlock's childhood, it's also a reference to the original Mycroft being described as very fat. I already discussed Mycroft's ring in my Q&A video, so if you want to learn more about that, I'll add a link at the end of this video. Number 17, Sherlock asks Mycroft to come to the wedding again. This ties into the idea that Mycroft knows more about Mary than he's letting on, and is advising Sherlock not to get involved so he won't be there whenever she comes between Mycroft, the government, and Charles Augustus Magnuson. And does Sherlock's last vow include protecting Mary from Mycroft? Notice how when the camera cuts back and forth between them, they each turn to face away from each other. Number 18, Sherlock's toast. The toast itself is the backbone of the whole episode. All the other flashbacks and stories branch off and come back to it. But there are several canon references during it, namely Sherlock borrowing lines from Watson, I Can't Congratulate You from Scandal in Bohemia, and then there's the funny stories. Most of them were references to things from Sign of 4, including the Poison Giant, but then there was the Hollow Client, the Inexplicable Matchbox, the Blanched Soldier, the Case of Identity, and the Vanishing Elephant. Mary's Bridesmaid is also a reference to the character Maud Bellamy. 19. Molly is Sherlock's Dana Scully. So this is kind of a stretch, but during Molly's montage, she evokes imagery from the X-Files. Don't you think of her relationship with Sherlock as being like Mulder and Scully? Drunk science for the win. Number 20. The first telegram was from Mike Stanford. That's the person who introduced Watson to Sherlock during Study in Pink. 21. Notice Mary's face whenever she says the name Cam, reinforcing the idea that Mary is afraid of him. Also, rewind to my numbers 5 through 7 for more evidence that she's being blackmailed. 22. Watson asked Sherlock to be his best man. This was actually the scene that they showed at Comic-Con. Notice that Watson does not stop Sherlock from drinking that eyeball tea. 23. When Sherlock says sorry for that last one, that's his subtle way of apologizing for faking his death. 24. They're planning the wedding at Baker Street. Under normal circumstances, they would plan the wedding at Mary's, but they want Sherlock to be a part of their family so bad that they bring the wedding to him. 25. Sherlock is YouTubing. So this was funny, but it lets us know that Mary can deduce emotions the same way Sherlock deduces clues. She also can tell whenever anyone's lying. 26. The Bloody Guardsman is Dean Thomas from Harry Potter. 27. Watson's interaction with the military commander reminds us about Watson's life beyond Sherlock Holmes. In the books, most of Sherlock's past is still a mystery, but we actually know quite a bit about Watson. Number 28, Sherlock explains that he solves crimes, but it's Watson who saves lives. It gives you a good idea for how he thinks Watson is so much more important than he is. 29, the bar fight is a possible reference to Sign of 4, where Sherlock starts a fight just to get information. Number 30, at the point they hit the stairs, Mrs. Hudson reveals that they've only been gone for 2 hours. 31, am I the current King of England? This is a joke referencing the original character. In that character's study, there was a picture of Queen Victoria on the wall. Benedict Cumberbatch's version even shot Queen Victoria's initials into the wall when he got bored. Number 32, the game is something. One of the best jokes in the episode. 33, the chat room mind palace. So Sherlock deduces the Mayfly man by cluing for looks from the chat room women. The scene is beautifully shot and incorporates some Freudian imagery. Sherlock is a very cerebral show, and Freud talked about the id, the ego, and the superego. In that courtroom, Mycroft represents the id, the super rational portion of Sherlock's brain. That helps him make decisions once he starts to break down. Watson represents the superego, the part of his brain that deals with emotions. Sherlock himself represents the ego, the part that helps the id and the superego communicate. That's why Mycroft at the end is yelling at him to solve the case. It's the rational portion of his brain trying to help him make deductions. In case you missed it, all those women worked near Major Sholto. 34. The cigarettes he's hiding in his slipper are a reference to the book Holmes hiding tobacco in his Persian slippers. 35. Sherlock is broken. Sherlock actually looks like he's exhibiting signs of PTSD as his mind palace hasn't been functioning at 100% on the series. He also has to physically abuse himself to focus. It's possible that something happened that was very dark during those 2 years he was alone, and he hasn't dealt with it yet. 36. Sherlock's last vow. He vows to protect Watson's new family, but it sounds like that will eventually put him in opposition to Mycroft. And in the books, Watson did not have any children, which is a poor omen for episode 3. And last one, 37, a Doctor Who reference. Notice that Sherlock leaving the wedding early looks very similar to the Doctor trying to leave Amy and Rory's wedding during the Big Bang. It's another case of a very strange man, or Time Lord, depending on how you look at it, trying to leave when he feels he's the odd man out. Amy and Rory chased after the Doctor, and even though John and Mary didn't chase Sherlock in this moment, they've spent the entire episode trying to make him feel like he's part of their new family. So a lot of theories came out of me cluing for all those looks, most notably Mary's real identity, her relationship with the villain, and the identity of those bank robbers. Be sure to write it in the comments if you didn't see anything I included in my video. I know there were a few things that I kept out that I just put in my Q&A that I didn't want to rehash. One really big idea that I'll end this video on is the fact that Series 3 ties up so many plots going all the way back to Study in Pink. That means that Series 3 on a larger level becomes the story of everything on Sherlock so far. Just meaning that Moriarty, the bank robbers, the two bombing, Mary, and Charles Augustus Milverton are all connected somehow. Be sure to subscribe to get the rest of my Sherlock videos. My next one will be my review of episode 3. That'll post on Sunday after the episode airs. Right now, click here to learn more about Mycroft's wedding ring, and click here to get my review for Sign of 3. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys tonight. High fives.